Hey guys, Brian Schultz here with Cape Falcon Kayak, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to add perimeter lines to a skin-on frame kayak. Now, just like I've been doing more and more lately, I'm going to make this a dual purpose video for my YouTube channel and also for my online kayak building course. That way I don't have to film the same content twice. So anyways, if you're not familiar with what a perimeter line is, basically it's just a rope that goes all the way around the outside of your kayak and it gives you something to hang on to in a rescue situation. And this is far from a hypothetical concern with skin boats because skin-on frame kayaks tend to be a bit lighter than other types of kayaks, which makes them especially vulnerable to getting snatched away by the wind. And in my experience as a sea kayaking instructor, even if I told people to maintain contact with their boat after they wet exit, usually those people would pop up not holding on to their boat. And if conditions were windy, most people could only get one good slap on the deck before the wind would take the kayak away from them. And in that kind of a situation, a perimeter line can make the difference between staying connected to your boat so you can do a successful rescue or losing your boat and ending up in a dangerous situation where you are either one, out there by yourself just swimming, or two, you're with a partner and that person now has to make a very bad choice between staying with you or going after your boat, both of which might be appropriate depending on the circumstances, but neither of which is a good idea. So anyways, the takeaway here is perimeter lines are a good idea. So what we're going to do for today's demonstration is I'm just going to walk you through the perimeter line setup on this flat deck F1 design right here. This kayak is actually rigged for sailing and catamaran functionality, but I want you to ignore all that complicated hardware, and we're just going to focus on how these perimeter lines are attached. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about different choices for perimeter line material. So why don't we start all the way at the back of the kayak here and just take a look at the simplest possible perimeter line attachment. So basically what you're looking at here is a 3/8 of an inch nylon pad eye that's screwed into the gunnels with two number 8 1-inch long stainless steel sheet metal screws. And there's a couple things you need to know about this attachment. The first one is that the gunnel angle is not always the same as the angle of the skin. Sometimes the skin can depart as it's heading down towards a chine or towards one of my secondary stringers, which means that when you're piloting this, you need to be cognizant that you're actually drilling straight down into the gunnel and not at some kind of a weird angle. Now, the other thing that's important is just to always make sure you're using the correct pilot hole size for the right screw, because if you drill too big, your fasteners could pull out, and if you drill too small, you could split your gunnel. And generally speaking, you can respect the pilot hole size charts you're going to find on the internet. The only exception to that is that if you're drilling into softer western red cedar, I would recommend going down an additional 1/64 of an inch. Now, something that I sometimes do if I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep an attachment point or not is I will set it initially with number 6 screws, because you can always pilot with a 1/16 of an inch drill bit for a number 6 screw, put it in, and then if you decide you don't want to keep this attachment point later, you can always pull these screws out and put a little bit of aqua seal on the hull. But if you do that with a number 8 screw, it tends to leave a pretty bad scar. Now, if you're going to be leaving something in long term though, it is important that you go up to the number 8 size because number 6 screws can rip out under extreme circumstances. So the perimeter line here that you're looking at right now is this 5mm reflective nylon line. I'll talk a little bit more about the different choices in perimeter line at the end, but that's what we're using on this kayak. All right, so starting out up here at the front of the kayak, personally, I like to start my perimeter lines a few feet back from the ends. I feel like between the grab loop at the front here, the physical end of the boat, and the perimeter line, that's going to give me something to grab onto in this area. And also, by starting my perimeter lines right here, oftentimes I can share this same attachment point to use for the sail stays for my sailing system. If you wanted to though, there's no reason you can't run the perimeter line all the way around to the end. And then coming back a little bit further, you can kind of see what I was talking about with all this complexity here, with this being a sailing kayak, a catamaran kayak, and having perimeter lines. Now, if we forget about the sailing system and the catamaran system, all you would normally be looking at here is a couple of these nylon pad eyes sitting right about here, and this perimeter line would be routed up through here. But because this has a catamaran attachment on the front deck, I'm using the back pad eye that's part of the catamaran attachment to route my perimeter line through, and then the front pad eye here is metal because it needs to support the sail stays. And also, for any pad-eye that's going to be used in our sailing system or our catamaran system, you're going to need to bump that fastener length from 1 inch long up to 1¼ inches long. So in this case, these would be set with number 8, 1¼ inch long stainless steel screws. Now, coming a little bit further back along the deck here, you can see that I've got the perimeter line going through this pad-eye that's oriented in the other direction from what we just saw. And the reason I do this in this case is because it lets this pad-eye have a dual purpose for routing the perimeter line, but also as an attachment point for this bungee loop right here, which is a general purpose utility loop on my front deck, but it's also the traveler and the vang system for my sailing system. So in this case, we've got a number 8 fastener going into the gunnel, just like normal, but we've only got a number 6 fastener right here going into the deck beam, because this is a pretty tight little area to be able to attach this, and I don't want to risk splitting the deck beam with too large of a screw here. So if you're going to do this on the peaked deck version, this normal pad-eye will actually bridge pretty easily from the gunnel up onto the deck beam here. If you're doing it on the flat deck version, however, you're going to want to heat your pad-eye up a little bit beforehand so it can bend across to this surface right here. Now, taking a look at this from the top of the boat here, I'm going to go ahead and just pull this out of the way really quick and shine a flashlight underneath here so you can see exactly how I locate this piece right here. So the important thing is that you don't put this screw near or through the tenon for your deck beam. So on my kayaks, all the tenons are towards the center of the boat. So this just happens to be deck beam number 2 on an F1. It would be deck beam number 3 on an LPB, and the tenon would be right about here. So this screw is parallel with the front edge of this deck beam, which means that I'm drilling into a safe zone. Now, to attach this screw into the deck beam itself, I'm coming back 3/8 of an inch from the front edge of the deck beam here, just to make sure that I'm into good safe wood before I drill my pilot hole. And then I'm screwing this down once again with a number 6 screw that's 3/4 of an inch long. And it's really important that you're careful when you set this up, because you only get one chance to set these in exactly the right place. And then coming back towards the front of the cockpit here, you can see that I've got my perimeter line going right underneath my leather deck lines right here. I used to actually clove hitch these around the deck lines, but I decided that's kind of unnecessary, and it is way easier to do it this way. And then coming to the back deck behind the cockpit, how I set things up right here just depends on how the kayak is set up. If the kayak is set up with leather deck lines and toggles like you just saw, I'm just going to continue that line right underneath the leather, heading back to a pad-eye right about here on the gunnel. But if I've got my catamaran system set up on the back deck right here, which has these bungee loops and these pad-eyes, I'm going to use these pad-eyes as routing points for my perimeter line, and I'm actually going to split my perimeter line between one loop that goes toward the front of the kayak and another loop that goes toward the back of the kayak, because this gives me 2 additional grab points in this area, which is really useful when you're doing self-rescues, especially a cowboy-style rescue. And once again, if I didn't already have a pad-eye in this location for the catamaran system, I would just get a pad-eye and screw it down to the gunnels right here. Now, something that's really important to point out right now is that you don't want to put any fasteners really near this deck beam, which is deck beam number 5 on an F1, or deck beam number 6 on an LPB, because this is an extremely high stress point in the gunnels, and we already have a mortise and tenon joint weakening this area. So you don't want to drill any fasteners really close to that tenon and add any additional weakness to this high stress point. So specifically where I would locate this pad-eye, if you're screwing it down to the outside of the gunnels, is to come 1½ inches forward from this deck beam right here, and then screw this into the gunnel just like I showed you earlier, and then you can route your perimeter line underneath your leather deck lines and through this pad-eye and then out towards the back of the boat. And then coming all the way to the back here, just like in the bow, I like to stop this about 24 inches from the back of the boat. Sometimes on an LPB, I'll go a little bit more like 30 inches, just so these lines aren't quite so long. Although if you want to, you can always go back farther than that. You just have to make sure that you put one more pad-eye on the gunnels somewhere up in here to support that longer rope span. So anyways, very last thing, let's come in really close and I'm going to show you how to tie this off. All right, so on one end of the line here, I've tied a scaffold knot. I'm not going to show you how to tie this knot because quite honestly, the tutorials you're going to find online are going to be so much more clear. So just do a quick web search for scaffold knot, tie yourself one of these, leave about this much tail coming off the back side of it, and then you can take the other end, slide it through this loop right here, just like this, and you can tighten down the scaffold knot onto that, and that's going to give this some really nice friction here. So now you can go ahead and just pull this other side through and tighten this down. And at this point, I would cut yourself 12 inches of tail from this point to the end of here and then melt this with a lighter. And then you can start half hitching this just like this. This tail is actually a little bit too short. I've only got 3 half hitches on here. A little bit better if you can get 4 half hitches right here. And then sometimes deck lines can stretch out a little bit over time, so it's pretty easy to come back in here and just untie these half hitches and then tighten it down a little more. Although if you're using nylon deck lines, I would caution you against tightening this too much while the lines are wet because nylon stretches when it's wet and you don't want this to tighten up too much and actually start to stress your fittings. All right, so that's pretty much it for the installation here. Obviously, there are lots of other ways you can do this. That's just the way that I do it on my own kayaks. The most important thing is just making sure that however you put your perimeter lines on, you've got good solid attachment points that are appropriately spaced. You don't want to have super long distances between your attachment points because you don't want that line to become its own entanglement hazard. Now, last thing I want to talk about here is the 2 different options for perimeter line cord. So the first option is going to be polyester, which is stronger, it's more rot resistant, it's more UV resistant, and it also doesn't stretch when it gets wet. So there's a tendency, for me at least, to think of polyester as being the superior perimeter line cord. The only downside, at least to the polyester we sell, is that it is tightly woven so it doesn't hold knots quite as well. Now, the other option is nylon, and nylon does stretch a little bit when it gets wet. It's not as UV resistant, although it is technically more abrasion resistant than polyester. And the big reason that I stock nylon perimeter line in my store is because it's the only perimeter line I can find right now that comes with a reflective tracer in it. And this is super useful if you're going to be out after dark in areas with boating traffic, or even if you just want an extra way to keep track of your paddling partners if you're paddling at night. Because even though the reflective perimeter line doesn't look very brilliant when you just look at it in daylight, it glows like the sun when you hit it with a light at night. So that's a really useful safety feature. I stock both different kinds of cord in my store. I've got a super high quality polyester line, and I've also got a super reflective nylon perimeter line. That way you can choose the right one for what you need. All right, so I guess that's it for perimeter lines. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And you can also find me on my website, which is capefalconkayaks.com, where I've got a bunch more skin-on-frame building video courses, plan sets, and various free skin-on-frame resources. You can also find us on Instagram at Cape Falcon Builds, where I post a daily build blog of everything I'm doing here in the shop. And just like I say every time, even if you're not normally a social media person, I would really encourage you to check out the Instagram because there is so much more cool stuff there than ever gets posted on the YouTube channel, and sometimes not even anywhere on my website. So once again, if that interests you, that is at Cape Falcon Builds on Instagram. Take care, be safe on the water, and have fun building your skin boat.